Navarro Remesal. He is a lecturer at CSAR, Comillas. And the title of his talk is What's Zen about Zen modes, Prajna knowledge versus mindfulness in game design.
Oh yes, Prajna is missing from the title, sorry. To read Prajna knowledge.
It's on. Hello, I'm going to be the last speaker, so thank you for your patience. And if you are very tired, as I am, you can close your eyes and pretend to be meditating. I will not be angry. This is the moment to do it, and you're more than allowed to do it. Yeah, my presentation is about Zen modes. Prajna, to read Prajna, it's quite complex to pronounce it, so my pronunciation is probably incorrect. Prajna knowledge versus mindfulness in game design. One of the main pillars of my PhD dissertation was freedom and the design of freedom, and how freedom is a space for negotiation between the designer and the player. And after my PhD, I moved from freedom from a more this is what happens when you move like a clown presenting. I should be more Zen-like. I went from freedom, from this applied design perspective, to ethics, and I decided it was the moment to bring into the conversation, to the table, some background I have in East Asian studies. And I started thinking and writing on suffering and compassion. This was last January at ITU, Games of Concern. Some of you suffered this. And this was last September at Oxford Interdisciplinary Video Games Culturate meeting. So I've been writing about this for some time, but a few months ago I realized that in order to speak and to write about Zen in video games and of Zen as an experience, I needed to investigate knowledge, and then this call for paper came, so it was a perfect timing. And one of the things I was getting tired about when I looked for Zen in games were these so-called Zen modes. So I gathered some Zen modes, some so-called Zen modes, and I decided to focus my presentation on sort of a negative statement, why these games are not Zen. But from that point, if I succeed in that, I think we can get some ideas about what can Zen tell us about the way we play, about game design and about interaction with games. So designing and incorporating Zen modes is quite trendy at the moment. This is Altos Adventures. So you can see here, no score, no game over, no distractions, just you, relax, enjoy. You're completely free to do as you please, to play with no pressure. This is Fruit Ninja. Fruit Ninja is probably the last game I expected to have a Zen mode. And just remove some obstacles and lets you play friendly and, well, as I'm probably sure you know, pretending to be a ninja killing fruit, which ninja did all the time in the past in Japan. This is Mini Metro, and the creators of this game say that the Zen mode is much like the traditional score game, but with the absence of a loss condition. So that's Zen. Zen monks normally play games with no loss condition, and that's how they become enlightened. Another example is the Zen Garden in Plants vs. Zombies, which plays like an idle clicker, like Abyssrium or other games like that. And this is Bejeweled 3, which includes breathing instructions and calming oral tones. So chill out, relax, and this is going to help you solve every problem in your life. So as you probably have noticed, this has nothing to do with Zen. And this will fall in, well, they are defined by minimalist settings, a lack of goals and punishment, which Oli Leino, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, calls an absence of playability, and they focus on relaxation and well-being. They are very focused on the well-being of the player as an individual and in a way as a commodification of relaxation. So they we'll probably focus in what has been called mindfulness by Highland and other researchers and other commentators, which was created as a treatment for chronic pain and stress by John Kabat-Zinn in the late 70s. And Highland has criticized as a conceptual slippage and a reductionist instrumentalism. I mean, it's probably helpful in dealing with stress, but not. It probably shouldn't be called mindfulness or Zen meditation or anything having to do with that. So, if we see these games and instantly we think they are not Zen, and we feel the pre-understanding of these modes is that they are not Zen, we need to define Zen. Yeah, that will be another commodification of Zen. If you use them, excuse me, I'm sure they're great and a very nice way to relax, probably better than video games, but this is mindfulness. What is Zen? Zen is literally a set of practices. So, talking about Zen is very complex because Zen is supposed to resist conceptualization and definition. So, what I'm doing here will be, well, they don't have a blasphemy in Zen, they're kind of flexible with these kind of things, but it goes against Zen. Basically, practicing Zen is practicing Zazen, that's Dogen, one of the best religious thinkers slash philosophers in Zen thinking, and he said that Zen was just sitting, Zazen or Shikantaza, just sitting for the sake of sitting, with no goal, with no purpose. There are other Zen practices like Mondo, conversation, very spontaneous conversation, Kim-Him, walking meditation, and all of them entail an inquiry about our experience of the universe, aiming to get a pre-reflective knowledge. They never talk about well-being, they never talk about self-reflection, they never talk about reducing stress. So it's quite hard to talk about Zen as a philosophy. Zen is not a philosophy, but we can have a philosophy of and about Zen. And for that endeavor, I would recommend Mark Siderits for a general view on Buddhism, Indian and Chinese Buddhism. Bill Chul Han, he wrote this book in German and it's translated in Spanish. I don't think it's in English, but it should be translated sooner because it's quite popular in both markets. And my favorite one is Zen Actions in Person by Thomas Kasulis. It's a very thorough and I think accurate reframing of Zen as a perspective, as a philosophical perspective. So it conceptualizes Zen, which is what I'm going to try to do now, into a more philosophical set, and a more philosophical system. So, Prajna. Before Prajna, I had investigated compassion. Compassion is karuna in Japanese, in Zen. And they are kind of the same thing, kind of hard to separate. But Zen gives priority to Prajna. Prajna is a deep understanding of reality and of the interrelatedness of everything, which is something we have been talking about the whole day. For example, D.T. Suzuki described it and translated as intuition, transcendental wisdom, and the unity of things. Juan Arnau, Spanish astrophysicist and Zen scholar, it's a very good profile to have, translates it as discernment, liberating wisdom, and clear understanding, and Walsh and Reams call it analytical, appreciative understanding, non-discriminative, non-dual, evincing of the sameness of all. So, it has analysis, it's very intuitive, it goes before thinking, and it grows out of the unity of things. Prajna is understanding things before they are conceptualized and separated. So, for understanding Prajna, we should talk about particulars versus universal. This is all in the paper. It's quite long, sorry. It's longer than I expected, but it's quite hard to explain Zen. But we can use some Indian logics, and well, there's Dinyaga and Dharmakirti, my Indian is more than my Chinese, who wrote about epistemology, and they say that the primary source of knowledge should be particulars. This goes against Hegel, because Hegel said that the first level of knowledge is sense certainty, but for Hegel this could not be proper knowledge, because it could not be transformed into language. But Buddhism, and especially Zen, defends this level of knowledge as a true form of knowledge. In sense certainty, we just receive reality, we don't filter it, we don't conceptualize it, and we are prepared to react to it. So perception is cognition that is free of conceptual construction. This sounds like a tongue twister, but it's the definition. And in a Zen Prajna knowledge, we are getting this influx of basic knowledge. We are not trying to turn it into a language game. The problem for Zen is that language is useful. They have this idea of the two truths, but it's reductionist. We always separate things into smaller sets, and we lose something. As in philosophy, we focus on something and we heed something else. So Zen wants to get the bigger picture. Well, normally when we talk about Zen, we say that we have to stop thinking and forget our ego and all this kind of mystical things that is probably good for Dr. Strange and not as good for understanding Zen. No mind means it's an actual dialectic relationship of thinking. Means hishirio, means without thinking, before conceptualizing. When we think, we have an object of thought, we have a noetic, noematic relation. In fushirio, we deny thinking. The object of thinking is thought, and we deny it. When they say, try not to think, we are in fushirio. But Zen aims to get, without thinking, hishirio or prajna. That's a state of non-positional experience of pure presence, as it was described by philosopher Nishida Kitaro, which was a proper philosopher. He came from a Zen training, very strict Zen training, but he undertook Western philosophy training as well, and he was, in a way, a parallel to Heidegger, so they share some of the same ideas that come after Husserl. And for Nishida and for the Zen scholars, this without thinking is an active thing. It's not a denial. We get things and we react to them. It's a kind of knowledge that is not separated from action. It's kind of hard to explain, so maybe in the questions I can expand on that. But it implies not focusing on the self and seeing everything as a process. Understanding that everything is related, we depend on everything. Zen needs an object and a subject in a context of emptiness, where none of them is an object or a subject, but at the same time they are. So it's a pure experience. Experience comes before conceptualization. We don't separate things, we don't give names, we don't give categories. It's non-binary. One of the probably clear terms in Zen is, and in Zen philosophy, is intuition act, or koi teki chokkan, by Nishida again, which is the in our knowledge, in our reactions, we express the way we understand everything and the way we transform the world and transform ourselves. So it's a mutual transformation depending on the context. Intuition act doesn't separate knowledge, intuition, and action. And it has a history and it's situated. So, in Intuition Act, we apprehend reality through our bodies and the relation between our bodies and the context. This sounds quite arcane, but I think we can apply it to video games, and I will say how in a moment. So, can we have Zen games? My short answer will be no, because Zen is a practice of no purpose, of going beyond thinking, beyond or before conceptualization, but we can have elements of Zen and Zen themes and Zen aesthetics in video games. For example, Bogos tried to design guru meditation, which was quite alright, but again defended an idea of Zen as winding down after a long day, withdrawing from reality, relaxing, moving to an inner world. There is no inner world in Zen, because we want to go before the conceptualization of the self. We want to get and experience reality as it is now, with a vast knowledge about it, and with a, in a way, wisdom and a moral sensibility. I mean, it's not passive, it's not nihilistic, it has a past, it has a future, but it doesn't think about past, present, or future. We see things. I'm seeing you now, I'm seeing the light here, I'm seeing the clock ticking down, I'm seeing everything, and I'm talking to you from this context as a speaker to an audience. So this is the moment we are interacting now at the moment. And in 5 minutes it will change to another context, and in 20 minutes we will be at the reception drinking and having fun. So you have to adapt to the context. You don't forget everything you know, but you react from the context and before conceptualization. So Guru meditation was quite alright, but it's not a proper Zen game. I will say that we cannot have Zen games. We can have almost Zen practices, like this guy who just walks. In a way, it's akin him. This is a YouTuber who started walking in Minecraft like 4 years ago, I think, and he has been walking ever since. He has like 400 chapters, 400 episodes in his YouTube channel, and it's just walking. This is the map, and that's him just walking. But again, he looks for adventure and he comments on it, so it's not actual Zen. It looks like a Zen practice, but it's not Zen yet. So what Zen modes are not Zen. I hope you have a clear understanding of Zen by now. The last part is, what can we get from Zen, and what can we apply in game analysis and game design from Zen? And I will say that we cannot get actual Prajna in games, because it should reframe our relationship with reality and with everyone and with nature and the nature of the self. But we can have what I call play-Prajna. We can have a state that is not a different way of playing. Talking about play-Prajna means reframing the way we understand a design situation, the possibility of behavior and actual behavior as an actuality. And reading games and reading play through play-Prajna should consider immediacy, but also proficiency. I mean, when we, in Zen and the Art of Archery by Herigel, which, by the way, was a text that greatly contributed to mysticizing Zen, both in the West and in Japan. But if you read the book, you see that he has to learn how to shoot, but Herigel needed to forget the instruction and the learning to actually shoot and perform. So, play-Prajna includes immediacy, proficiency, a very we should give weight to intuition act, and it could be compared to flow. It looks like flow, but flow depends on a sense of trance that can be interrupted with performance and production and an optimal level of anxiety. Whereas in play-Prajna, we focus on the context, we focus on the combination of performance and perception, of thinking as action, and on the interdependency of every element in the play situation, and in the way they transform just by playing. And it's usually manifested, in my view, in paideia elements, in the way we play, in all three elements of playing. So, some examples to conclude. For example, the way we use our body and context in dancing arcades. If there was no audience here, or the machine was different, or the arcade salon was different, this guy here will not be as into the situation as he looks to be. So we need a certain context to perform. This is like an athlete He is not in trance, he is not in an inner world, he is not separated from this context. The context contributes to the playing experience. Social and group dynamics. Prajna has a very strong moral implication. Before interacting with someone, we decide intuitively how are we going to relate to this person. So, cooperation and competition are normally very Prajna-like in that sense. Multi-focus, the way we understand everything to be part of a game and everything to be part even of the ludic self, so to speak, as Daniel has theorized. When we play certain games, we are not in a single center of attention. We don't identify ourselves just as a single point in the game. For example, in an RTS, we have to pay attention to everything. And the whole world is part of the things we have to react to spontaneously. Intuitive learning, tutorials, the way Mario games teaches the player how to game depending on the moment, not using universals, but particulars. This is the context, this is how you have to react, and we keep changing the context, sort of like in limbo, but in a more applied sense. And the player needs to be able to react spontaneously. We don't get any prompt on how to play these levels. And ethical, intuitive, instinctive ethical choices, like in Spec of the Line, we don't have a binary choice. We have to, in a way, almost like feel or there's an intuition of an ethical situation behind this. And this will be played Prajna, it's more detailed in the paper, but Zen, again, this is not Zen, again, I hope it's clear by now, but Zen can teach us how to read the apprehension of the immediate, present, and change. Change is very important. Everything is impermanent in games and in Zen. The state of pre-conscious engagement that is not related to production, as flow is, the importance of intuition acts, the conflation of immediacy and proficiency, the moral sense, the intuitive moral sense of our actions, and the importance of analytical thinking as intermediary state. Prajna cannot be interrupted. Calculative thinking will be an intermediary step in thinking. We are always thinking. We are always in this stream of consciousness, and we stop to think about something, and we keep playing. We can keep in that state of without thinking and Prajna. So flow can be interrupted. I think playing is not as interrupted as we pretend it to be. When we stop playing and go to community, we keep playing in a sense. So if you have any questions, I will be glad to answer them. And thank you for listening. And I owe you 3 minutes of your lives.
Thank you very much. Yes, question? Several questions?
Thank you for this presentation. I'm really interested in the subject. Let's assume I understood what Zen is for a second. Would you say that, because I agree with you that games are not Zen, it's more about the process rather than the actual thing. And would you say that you mentioned Paideia at a certain point. Would you say that a playful attitude, a really uninhibited, free, without any rules and objectives attitude, and I'm not saying play within a digital game, it could be play, I don't know, having a free play with your cat, whatever. Or having a hula hoop, or just, I don't know, just doing something, or just jamming on a guitar without actually thinking about it and getting into it. Would you consider that as a Zen practice?
It could be, because everything could be a Zen practice. You don't need silence, you don't need calmness to practice Zen or to practice Hishiryo without thinking. But it's the closest we can get to Zen without actually practicing Zen, because play is about breaking the context. And some Zen practices need to break the context. When you go, you need a master to break the context. When you go to a mondo, which is a conversation or sanzen with the master, you don't know what the master is going to do. He probably is going to talk to you, or maybe he's going to ask some question, or maybe he's going to slap you in the face. And you have to react to that. So I would say that that is playful, but I'm not exactly sure, and I should have a proper Zen scholar by my side to correct me and slap me in the face when I say that. But I will say that some Zen practices are very playful because they keep breaking the context to take you again to the present. You are into a state of mind that depends on mental constructions and on categories and binary identity categories, and then something happens and it breaks and you get transported back to the present. So in a way it will be very Zen, but I will not dare to say that that's something that usually happens in video games, because the context is very well constructed. So maybe we could look for that in transgressive play, for example, but not in at least in the state of the industry at the moment.
That's why I'm sort of stayed away from games and looked more at the original definition of play as something free and uninhibited. So even when you're playing, you don't necessarily attach meaning to certain things which you're playing with, and you just have this completely, if you can, have a completely free concept of what you're doing. And for me, a playful attitude, the way I see it at least, demands from the person that you also look at things in a non-structured way.
And I would say that in a playful situation, the three modes of thinking here, Shiryo, Fushiryo, and Hishiryo, gets constantly renegotiated, because we are in a Shiryo and we have to deny it, and then if we are successful in that, we move to without thinking. But first we have to deny the way we were thinking up until we started playing.
So is total Zen possible until we're basically restricted by our own bodies?
No, but Zen needs to take into account your own body. If you want to meditate and you are hungry, you should focus on the hunger and on the cramps and on the feelings you are getting at the moment. That's a very Western misconception, that to practice Zen you need to be calm and relaxed, and you need well-being. If you have a headache, focus on that headache, and your body is always going to be present. And being enlightened doesn't mean escaping your body or escaping reality. It means being constantly aware of everything and of the way you are conceptualizing everything you perceive. So it's a phenomenology. Zen is not interested in cosmogonies or I don't know, metaphysics. It's more of a phenomenology of the subject itself. I hope I answered your question. It's quite hard to. Sorry.
Thank you very much for your presentation. There was a kind of element I missed a little bit, which may be also relevant for games. So that's Zen also has a kind of anarchistic or violent or destructive aspect. Think about books like Zen at War and Zen and the Art of bomb diving, this kind of, and many kamikaze pilots, for example, had also Zen training in the Second World War. But what I'm thinking about in this, the reason to raise this is not so much debunking Zen, but I can imagine that games can play this kind of role, that you have, because why is this destructive moment in Zen? I think because it is a kind of trying to escape conceptualization, because we always are in conceptual paradigms, and Zen tries to violate them so that you become more open for this kind of sense knowledge, as you explained. And I can imagine that games can have this role. You have expectations, and they are constantly violated by the game, so to say. And that can be, I think, also a kind of Zen experience. And one last remark I was thinking about. This aspect is emphasized by Suzuki, for example. And you were talking about how to give a lecture on Zen. I remember this anecdote about him. He was invited to give a keynote on an important conference on Zen, and he entered the stage and said, Zen, very difficult, and then he left the stage.
I should have done that, but I'm not Suzuki, so I'm not entitled to it. Yeah, regarding the first part, I would say that the way Zen tries to break conceptualization is very violent, but only philosophically. I mean, the way Zen was used in warmonging and war practices is no different from the way Christianity was used in the Crusades and with medieval knights.
Yeah, but there is kind of samurai ethics also in Zen.
Yeah, but
the Japanese version of Buddhism is different than the Chinese and the Indian.
But again, I think samurai have been romanticized both in Japan and in the West, because Bushido was not very Zen. I mean, it was Zen in some parts, but it was an appropriation of Zen for, if not war reasons, for warrior reasons. So they wanted to have a spiritual basis for their activity, but it was not very Zen, because Zen says that if you attain prana, you understand the interrelatedness of everything, so you are more compassionate, and you understand suffering, and then you go from prana to karuna, and you see that your suffering depends on the well-being of others, and you try to take care of everything. It's not maybe as saintly as in Christianity, but it understands pain and suffering. So if you're a Zen monk, a Buddhist monk, you are not supposed to kill, not because you are not allowed to, but because you can't. You stop being able to kill, in a way. So I would say that in the moment they kind of live together with the samurai, but they were not so happy together, as we can see from our perspective. And regarding the second part, I would say that games can be used for Zen practices, but you will need to enter a without thinking state when playing, and Zen needs Shiryo after the without thinking. I mean, you have to discuss what you have done. So you have to bring something out, take something out of the game into your actual reality, your actuality. So you will need a master, or you will need some kind of guidance to properly use a game as a Zen practice. But I would say that playfulness is very key.
I have one small remark. Of course, I don't think there is something like an essence of Zen, as a kind of essence of Zen. But for example, Nishida was also heavily criticized because the way he developed the notion of Zen was also kind of nationalistic notion of Japaneseness, which I think also was used later in the war, for example, as part of this ideology. So I'm afraid that you're also romanticizing a little bit this peaceful dimension of Zen.
Tiptoeing around it, because it's the same with Heidegger, or even Heidegger was a Nazi, and Nishida, his concept of space and place was of great importance in the imperialism of Japan. But I'm trying not to idealize, but I'm using these sources, and I agree completely with you. But I'm using the sources, and mainly Dogen, which is the only Zen monk who tried to philosophize about Zen in a way, and in some parts maybe Hakuin, but then you have to stop, because otherwise it's a constant fight between sects and factions, and it can get very violent. But when I say I try not to idealize it, is because I think that being I'm not a Zen practitioner, I'm not a Zen scholar, but I think they don't stop being violent, they don't stop feeling anger or feeling rage or whatever. They just know how it happens, and they in a way analyze the experience and the phenomenology of anger. So it's more human than, it's not saintly, and it's not mystical, it's not Dr. Strange practicing. So yes, in that way it's very mundane, but Nishida and Harrigan, they have a past, and it's quite hard to debate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for very
Thank you.